Refugees are welcome here.
Say it loud, say it clear.
Refugees are welcome here.
Say it loud, say it clear.
Refugees are welcome here.
Say it loud, say it clear.
Refugees are welcome here.
Okay. And we are going to build and extend our movement of stand up to racism, standing up to the hard right and the fascists, and we are going to go on and on, because across the channel there is a terrible warning. That warning is Marine Le Pen, and she is being emulated over here with the disgusting development of 5 racist MPs in Parliament. They are going to use that platform to divide and rule, backed up by 4 million votes, coming second in 97 constituencies against the Labour Party. And therefore, we have to be on our guard. This is the beginning of a battle that the outcome of which we can win, but we need to treble, quadruple, and whatever the verb is, more, to make us millions in terms of standing against the fascists.
We don't want to see violence and vicious circle of violence against violence, fire by fire. Where are we headed? We don't want that. We want to live in peacefulness. We want to live in harmony. We want, whether you are a black or a white or Christian or a Jew, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is your good deed. We are all equal. The Anglo-Saxons are immigrants themselves. Fact or not? Yes! The Vikings are immigrants. Yes or no? Yes! How about the hunter-gatherers, the first ones to arrive to this country? Were they white or were they dark? They were dark. So what we have here, we need to teach these people some little bit of history. We'll have to say to someone like Nigel Farage and Suila Braverman, no to hatred. They're the one who started, unfortunately, whether we like it or not. When they have those messages of hate, they are the one who are spreading the wrong messages. Shall we let them go with it alone? No. Shall we stop them? Yes. We have to work together to stop them. First action, we must put pressure on the government to recognize the clear definition of Islamophobia. Do we have one? No. Unfortunately, we don't. Thanks to Islamic Council, they did recognize the Islamophobia definition.
We have a marvellous banner here, LGBT plus against Islamophobia. A big welcome to them as well.
So I'm here today with Jews from my shul and also a very old friend of mine who's Muslim, and she told me this week that her mum was too afraid to leave the house. And when I heard that, I felt incredibly sad, and I felt in despair about the state of the country that we're in. If people are too afraid to leave their house because of the colour of their skin or what they may wear and how they may be identified. I think it's incredibly easy to sink into despair and isolation, and in that fear to turn away from each other and to hide and not want to build relationships, to become insular. And I think if we do that, then the far right win.
This isn't by accident. This was fueled, it's a manifestation of a long history of prejudice, violence and systemic oppression. However, our stand here to resist this is also a historical stance. People have resisted this before us. We stand here as many before us have stood against racism, against fascism, against capitalism and colonization. We are part of that history.
It was amazing to see such a strong community response on Wednesday. People coming together in great numbers. It was truly fantastic. And I think it does show that the vast majority of people want to live in peace with their neighbours in an inclusive society which truly values everyone's diversity. The reasons that everything seems broken are not found within our communities, quite the reverse, but in the political choices that we've been subjected to. and the solutions come in working together to demand better.
Today we see Islamophobia weaponized by the far right to distract from the real issues that plague our society and that affect the working class. Dire inequality, poverty and injustice. Those are the real issues we're facing. But the media and politicians, rather than addressing these issues or attempting to address the issues, choose to scapegoat Muslims and migrants, people of colour, to distract from the real issues and the system that oppresses us all. Because they're afraid of our collective consciousness, they're afraid of the awareness that it is one system that oppresses all of us. The working class, Muslims, migrants, people who seek refuge in this country and in other countries, fleeing war and conflict. We are all oppressed by the same system.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Hello there, my name is Barker. So injustice, we always fight against injustice, so I just be here today so we can be together as one and always share love, caring and unitedness. Because diversity is what we're Great Britain. So we don't need no racism, no colour, no religion, no whatever sex or anything. We're all human beings at the end of the day. So we just need to have love, peace and caring.
We're against hate. We're against hatred and also we're against of discrimination. What I'd like to say, my name is Saudi Ali, I'm from Minority Matters. I arrived here as a refugee. I'm not a refugee anymore, but refugees contribute a lot into this country. Starting out of line, vulnerable refugees to be attacked and burned. I think we need to stand against hate, and I like to invite those who are hating the far right to join us in helping, join us in building our country, join us in helping the refugees. There is a plenty, refugees are welcome. It's nothing to fight over, nothing they're taking away from you, they're running away for safety and sanctity, which this country is proud to be giving the people. Whoever needs here can come here legitimately, and we all have to contribute and give it back. I like to say no to hatred. Stop burning, stop the looting, stop attacking asylum seekers. Get on with getting what you need is to get this country back on the road. Thank you for all the United Kingdom, all those who welcomed us. We love here, we're here to stay, we're here to help, we're here to contribute, and we're proud to be British. Thank you so much.
My question to you, why are you not racist? The answer of which is what needs to be shared with the world today. What makes you not racist is what's missing in those who are racist and fascist. We ought to share that. What makes you be a person in touch with their humanity, such that you can recognize another human being just like you, extending love and affinity to everyone around you. What makes you able to do that? You see, a lot of the people out there are misinformed. And they are misinformed by those who are disinforming them. Those who are spreading lies. Those who are spreading lies using the media machinery to divide so they can rule. But we cannot take this risk any longer. Paul before me mentioned what is happening in France. But 6 other European countries are ruled by far-right governments. What a shame on our humanity and civilization in Europe in the 21st century.
So today I bring solidarity from my trade union, UCU, who represent university and college workers. My branch represents City St George's, so staff at City St George's University, which isn't too far from here, it's just down the road in Angel. Trade unions have a proud history standing against racism and fascism. And the message I want to bring is solidarity to all those under attack, as well as international students and staff who will be worried for their safety. We applaud all those who mobilised and joined the protests against the far right. UCU members will continue to stand against them and to offer support to local mosques and communities. The university should be built and is built on multiculturalism. It's built often on free labour and on our students. They should be at the forefront, calling out racism and standing by their staff and their students. However, our university, City St George's, has been woeful in its response to the far-right riots. It has failed to call out and condemn racism and Islamophobia. It failed to offer staff and students immediate support ahead of last Wednesday's planned riots, many of whom were scared to come in and travel back home. This is not about thuggery and violence, as our institutions, politicians and media will say. It's about racism. This is yet another reminder that we cannot look to our institutions for change. Change comes from here, from our communities, from the workers, from the people. I used to live in Finsbury Park about 20 years ago, but I was born in and grew up in Southall in the 80s. I myself am the daughter of immigrants from India. I remember the National Front turning up to our school gates and the fear in the community. I've heard stories from my family about the racism they experienced in the 70s and how people organised in the community, including my dad, who was part of the Indian Workers Association. And never did I think we would be back here again 50 years later. So I ask, will we as people of colour ignore what is happening, or will we take direct action ourselves to face down the fascists? Change comes from our communities, from the workers, from the people. Working class unity is the way forward. Solidarity.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. I have to say, as the first black leader of Islington Council, it is an honour to serve such an amazing and powerful borough. I was born in the Whittington Hospital and I've never left because I know in Islington I'm surrounded by a community and neighbours that love and care for each other, and moments like this prove that over and over again. I know that the last week has been terrifying for a lot of us. We've worried about walking down the street, we've worried about where our kids are and if they're safe. That cannot be the case in this borough. We are proud in Islington Council that we have declared ourselves a borough of sanctuary, that we welcome refugees and migrants from all over the world. That no matter the country you are born in, or your parents are born in, or your grandparents are born in, are irrelevant as long as you want to contribute to the success of Islington. We are here for you. And I want to thank all the council officers this week who have been out tirelessly checking in on our community, working with community partners to make sure that Islington stays safe. I've been a councillor for over 10 years in Islington, and I have to say that one of the hardest things I have ever done as a councillor was make a speech in this very spot after we lost Makram Ali and other people were injured after a terrorist attack from a white supremacist from Wales coming into this borough. We know in our hearts the pain that that kind of hatred can cause, and we must stand together, united in love, in celebration of the wealth and the contribution that we want to have, always. We cannot be at all complacent and let hatred step in for a second. We must love each other fully and with our hearts risen and together, because if we don't, we know what will happen. The person who spoke to me from the mosque was completely right. They want to blame us. We saw all through the last general election campaign leaflets about swarms and awful things. We saw newspapers print awful headlines. They want us to be divided. We cannot give them what they want. You must promise me today that we think about one action that we can take, one action of kindness, of gratitude, of love, that we can show to every community so that we can be stronger together. Today it starts and we must continue. Thank you.
Speak of the microphones and so on. First of all, Paul, thank you for that, and thank you everyone for being here today to show your determination to create a society free of racism and free of discrimination. But I also want to say a huge thank you to Finsbury Park Mosque, to Muslim Welfare House, to Holloway Road Mosque, Hornsey Road Mosque, Parkhurst Road Mosque, and the synagogues in Hackney and so many other places that have all turned out on today, this day, when we're showing our determination to stand up to racism in any form. And as Paul says, if you don't confront the racists, they take over. He's right about Cable Street in the 1930s. He was right about the 1970s. Some of you, not many of you, are old enough to remember the 1970s. You are, Paul, but and I am as well. In the 1970s, the National Front gained 100,000 votes across London in the GLC elections of 1977. They tried to organise a march through Haringey, through Wood Green, all the way up to Southgate. Bernie Grant, myself and a number of others organised a huge demonstration to try and stop them. We weren't totally successful, but we mobilised then 5,000 people, and many thousands more came to Lewisham a few weeks later, where the National Front were well and truly stopped. The Anti-Nazi League grew, the anti-racist movement grew, Rock Against Racism grew, and so much else. And the National Front went into a big decline after that. But they never disappeared. I remember here in the early 1980s, shortly after I was elected to Parliament, the National Front owned a house on Avenel Road. I called it the House of Hate. They owned this house in order to try and entice Arsenal supporters over to their racist way of thinking. And they set up this disgusting place just opposite the East Stand. The community mobilised and marched around the area, got the place closed down, and declared Finsbury Park a Nazi-free zone. And I was proud of what we did that day. But over the last few weeks, you've seen something deeply horrible and deeply disturbing all across this country. When Muslim-owned businesses felt the need to close early, or indeed sometimes not open at all. When many Muslim women felt afraid to go out because they didn't know what was going to happen to them. When solicitors' practices that have been helping refugees felt the need to have security on the door. When community centres were afraid to open and started cancelling events. That was a message of hate and a message of fear. And after that horrible, horrible murder in Southport, the attack that then took place completely irrationally, took place against the mosque in Southport, was a disgusting and frightening spectacle. To the credit of many people in Southport and on Merseyside, the following morning, building workers and others turned up at the mosque, rebuilt the wall that had been destroyed, painted the doors, fixed the windows, cleaned the whole place up and said, "You are part of our community." That's the answer to these people. That's the answer to these people who spread solely a language of hate and fear. And of course, if it's not challenged, it will grow and get worse and worse. But, and this is a big but, Paul quite rightly pointed out that the language that the far right are now using is attacking refugees, is attacking people that have come by boat from Calais, is attacking anyone that's made their home in this country, and attacking particular faiths. In this case, it's Islam they're attacking all the time. But I have to say to my many colleagues in Parliament, your endless speeches describing desperate victims of war in Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, as people trying to invade this country in inflatable boats from Calais, creating in them the image of an enemy trying to take over our country, has fueled the far right and fueled the racism in our society. Those poor people in Calais, and I've been there many times, and I've met many of them, are utterly desperate. You would have to be utterly desperate to risk everything to get in one of those vessels and try and cross the channel. So what we need is safe routes for refugees in order to seek a place of safety. And when the election came, and there was a bit of competition on language that will be used, we're going to send people back, we're going to deport people, we're going to deport more than you are. Hang on a minute, think of what you're saying and think of that message and think where that message is carried through. It is very, very dangerous language, and somewhere on the Neanderthal far right, somebody will pick that up, pick up a brick and start throwing it through the window of a mosque. Once you set that horrible thing out of the kennel, it's very hard to get it back. And so our message has to be, yes, of the unity of our communities, and here in Finsbury Park I'm proud to say how united we are as a community, but it's also looking at the conditions under which the far right mobilise themselves. Because this week there was something horribly reminiscent of the history of Nazi Germany in the 1930s, when gangs in the 1930s identified synagogues, they identified Jewish-owned businesses, they identified Jewish-owned homes, and they attacked them. And they burnt them down. Kristallnacht killed many, many people. That was the mobilization of a far-right group of ignorant people on the basis that somehow or other all of their problems were caused by the Jewish people, the gay community, the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller community, any identifiable minority. And so they feed on poverty, they feed on inadequate housing, they feed on underfunded schools, they feed on privatised healthcare, they feed on the destruction of public services and the common realm. And so our campaign against racism in any form is also part and parcel of a campaign for a more decent, more equal society. It's a campaign for better housing. It's a campaign for control of the private rented sector. It's a campaign to build more council housing. It's a campaign to stop handing our National Health Service over to the privateers and the profiteers. It's a campaign on all of these issues. And so our message today is, here we are very united. We're not going away, we're not giving up. And reforming and rejuvenating the anti-racist campaign is very important, because a few weeks ago I was on the anti-racist demonstration in Russell Square, but I can't be the only person that was pretty horrified at the number of people that Stephen Yaxley Lennon managed to get into Trafalgar Square that day. And the numbers of people that he mobilised. Well, he's not quite a loser, because he's actually on a sun lounger in Cyprus at the moment, apparently paying £400 a night for it. So he is directing far-right, fascist, racist activity from the luxury of a hotel somewhere in Cyprus. Well, come on, doesn't that say it all about the cynicism of his movement and what they're about? I'll tell you what, we're a bit better than that, because we're united, we're together, we're of all faiths and none, we're of all communities, we're of a whole range of different languages, but above all, we're a community that will stand up for each other and defend each other and will not allow ourselves to be divided. And so, thank you all for being here today. Thank you for your demonstration and your determination. And if we get another day in which the far right start to label places they're going to go and attack, just pitch up there and help out by just standing in the street. And what was interesting this week was, yes, the police were very much in evidence all over the country. Yes, they were arresting far-right fascists for their violent activity. But what really made the difference was the voice of people just coming out there and saying, no way, not in our name, not in our manner, not in our borough, not here in Finsbury Park, not anywhere else. Unity against fascism, unity against racism, unity for a fair, equal and more just society. Thank you very much.